How many times have you felt that insecurity was dictating the course of your life, making you doubt your own capabilities? Sometimes it appears subtly, disguised as prudence, and suddenly we realize it has paralyzed our dreams. It's as if each step is accompanied by an echo. What if it doesn't work out? An echo that steals energy and clarity. Stoicism, however, offers a powerful alternative to this scenario. More than an ancient philosophy, it is a practical guide for cultivating inner confidence, transforming obstacles into learning experiences, and moving forward with serenity, even when everything seems uncertain. The purpose of this guide is not just to present distant philosophical concepts, but to show how ideas like amor fati, the loving acceptance of fate, or the dichotomy of control can be incorporated into your daily life to strengthen your posture in the face of challenges. Instead of running away from discomfort, you will learn to face it head-on, understand its triggers, and transform it into fuel for growth. This approach doesn't eliminate loneliness, fear, or mistakes, but it teaches you to see them as valuable tools for self-knowledge and the development of personal virtue. Imagine, for a moment, waking up every day with serene clarity, knowing that procrastination no longer steals your time, that your habits are aligned with your values, and that your routine strengthens your mind and heart. This isn't an empty promise, but a practical, step-by-step path that can transform your relationship with yourself and the world. Throughout this text, you'll find concrete examples, reflections, and strategies inspired by Stoicism that will help you gain unshakable confidence and live with greater purpose. The concept of amor fati. When we speak of amor fati, we are not dealing with just a distant philosophical concept, but with a practical approach to life. This central idea of Stoicism invites us to love our fate, not just accept it. It seems simple, but in practice, it is revolutionary. Loving what happens, even if it initially seems contrary to our plans. In a world full of insecurity, where every unexpected event seems like a threat, amor fati becomes a powerful antidote. It shows us that there is no growth without adversity, and that every obstacle can be seen as an opportunity to hone virtue and resilience. Imagine, for example, losing a job. Instead of wallowing in fear or procrastination, this philosophy teaches us to look at the event with serenity. What can I learn from this? What new doors might open? This perspective doesn't deny the pain, but transforms it. And when you transform your relationship with circumstances, you begin to transform yourself. Little by little, you realize that even moments of solitude carry lessons and that control over your emotional state is in your hands. This loving acceptance of life doesn't mean passivity, but rather a deeper form of self-knowledge and conscious action. Amor fati teaches us that we can't change the past or control the future, but we can shape how we react to the present. And this shift in perspective is liberating. A practical example is building habits aligned with your values. When something unexpected happens, like a project delay or unfair criticism, instead of reacting with anxiety, you can ask yourself, how can I use this to become better? This reflection, typical of Stoicism, reduces insecurity and increases clarity, allowing you to act calmly and firmly. Over time, cultivating this mindset affects your entire routine. You start to wake up in the morning with a list of clear intentions, without giving room to procrastination or comparing yourself to others. And, interestingly, this brings more energy and enthusiasm to your daily life, not because the challenges have disappeared, but because you've learned to deal with them more wisely. Living amor fati also involves practicing gratitude for the little things, even when they don't go as planned. This simple practice strengthens inner confidence and builds a shield against emotional insecurity. For example, if someone criticizes your work, instead of seeing it as a personal attack, you can see it as an opportunity for growth and thus move even closer to the virtue proposed by Stoicism. This daily exercise of active acceptance integrates into your habits and routine, creating a positive cycle. Less procrastination, more focus, more clarity. Furthermore, it changes your perception of solitude. Instead of feeling it as a burden, you begin to use it as a space for reflection, replanning, and inner strengthening. With this new perspective, even situations that previously seemed uncontrollable gain meaning, and you feel increasingly in control of your reactions, even if you have no control over external events. And it is at this point that amor fati reveals itself as a path to personal liberation. The dichotomy of control. The so-called dichotomy of control is one of the central pillars of Stoicism and, at the same time, one of the most practical keys to dealing with insecurity. This idea teaches us to clearly differentiate between what is within our control and what is beyond our reach. It seems simple, but think about how many times you've exhausted yourself trying to change other people's opinions, control outcomes, or anticipate every unexpected event. This effort not only consumes energy but also fuels anxiety and procrastination because your focus is dispersed. Stoic teaching proposes an alternative. Focus your efforts solely on what depends on you, your thoughts, attitudes, decisions, and habits, and accept without resentment what cannot be changed. It's like rowing in a river. You can't control the current, but you can control the direction of the oar. This mindset doesn't eliminate problems, but it reduces their emotional weight and increases your virtue by acting consciously. When this distinction becomes part of your routine, life becomes lighter. By realizing you can't control other people's behavior, you stop wasting time trying to please everyone and start cultivating self-awareness and clarity of values. This shift reduces insecurity because you anchor yourself in what you can truly influence. For example, instead of worrying about others' reactions to a work presentation, focus on preparing your content as best you can. This is a practical habit you can adopt today. Whenever you feel anxious, ask yourself, does this depend on me or not? If it does, act. If it doesn't, accept it. This small question, repeated daily, strengthens your discipline and combats procrastination by preventing distraction. Little by little, you realize that even loneliness, when inevitable, can be managed with serenity because you control your attitude toward it. It's important to remember that applying the dichotomy of control doesn't mean indifference or conformity. On the contrary, it means acting firmly on what's within your reach and releasing what isn't, without guilt. This practice strengthens inner confidence because you feel like you're doing your part, without demanding results beyond your control. It also changes your habits. Less complaining, more action. Fewer comparisons, more focus. At first, it may seem difficult to let go of the urge to control everything, but this conscious choice brings peace and productivity. For example, if traffic is chaotic, there's no point in getting upset. Take the time to listen to an inspiring audiobook, such as Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, transforming discomfort into learning. This perspective transforms even moments of solitude into spaces for growth and reflection. The most fascinating thing is that, by practicing this dichotomy, you notice that your emotional energy is renewed and that virtue begins to guide your actions, making your life lighter and more effective. Habits that oppose Stoicism. Stoicism isn't just a collection of inspirational quotes. It also warns us about the behaviors that undermine our serenity and distance us from virtue. Among them are 6 particularly harmful habits: procrastination, dishonesty, lack of communication, constant comparison with others, seeking external accountability, and relying on external factors for happiness. Each of these patterns reinforces insecurity and throws us off balance. Consider, for example, procrastination. It not only postpones tasks but also fuels a cycle of guilt and self-criticism that erodes self-confidence. Comparing yourself to others, on the other hand, is a constant invitation to frustration, as there will always be someone seemingly more successful. Stoicism proposes the opposite. Taking responsibility for your actions, cultivating transparency, communicating clearly, and finding contentment in what depends on you. These adjustments, even small ones, have a direct impact on your emotional balance. A practical way to start breaking these habits is to observe your own routine and identify triggers. Ask yourself, at what times of day does procrastination appear? Is it after lunch, before starting a difficult task, or when you feel insecure about a challenge? By mapping these points, you can intervene more consciously. The same goes for comparing yourself to others. Instead of wasting energy looking at social media and reinforcing feelings of inadequacy, use this time to invest in self-knowledge, reading, or personal development. Books like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius or Letters of a Stoic by Seneca are great allies in strengthening the Stoic mindset. This shift in focus, combined with the daily practice of honesty and clear communication, creates an internal safety net that reduces emotional dependence on external factors and strengthens your virtue. Breaking these patterns doesn't mean becoming cold or isolated, but rather building a solid foundation of inner confidence. For example, by recognizing that solitude can be a time of growth, you stop seeking external distractions to fill the void. This combats emotional procrastination and opens space for deep reflection. At the same time, cultivating personal responsibility helps reduce insecurity, as you realize you have power over your choices, even if you don't have complete control over the outcomes. Over time, these adjustments become a natural part of your routine, creating a virtuous cycle of discipline, clarity, and balance. Stoicism, in this context, is not a distant philosophy, but a practical guide for reorganizing your life, replacing harmful behaviors with attitudes aligned with virtue. And this process paves the way for a lighter, more centered, and more productive existence. The Stoic routine. When we look at the lives of figures like Marcus Aurelius, we realize that Stoicism isn't limited to lofty thoughts. It translates into routine. The emperor, despite immense responsibilities, organized his day with moments of morning reflection, evening review, and conscious planning to deal with adversity. This Stoic routine wasn't just a formality, but a practical exercise to cultivate virtue, combat procrastination, and deal with the insecurity typical of the pressures of power. Upon waking, Marcus Aurelius would remind himself that he would encounter difficult people, setbacks, and unexpected events, preparing his mind to receive these facts with serenity. It's a simple yet powerful habit that anyone can adopt. Before checking your phone or opening your email, take a few minutes to reflect. What challenges can I anticipate today? How do I want to react to them? This practice creates a kind of mental shield against impulses and anxiety. Implementing a Stoic routine today can be easier than it seems. You don't have to change everything at once. You can start with small adjustments that reduce insecurity and increase your focus. For example, when you wake up, write down 3 essential actions for the day. This list helps avoid procrastination and provides clarity on what's within your control. Another habit inspired by Stoicism is nighttime reflection. Take a few minutes before bed to evaluate your actions. Where did you act in accordance with your values? Where could you improve? This practice isn't an exercise in guilt, but in self-awareness, allowing for constant adjustments. Also, schedule breaks throughout the day to breathe, stretch, or simply disconnect from external stimuli. These moments act as anchors, reminding you that the essential thing is your actions, not your circumstances. Over time, this routine becomes a powerful ally against emotional turmoil. You begin to view solitude not as a burden, but as a fertile space for reflection and inner alignment. By cultivating these habits, insecurity weakens because you build a sense of daily competence. Each task completed, each reflection made, each small progress reinforces your confidence. This positive cycle strengthens your virtue and gives consistency to your actions, reducing the need for external motivation. If procrastination strikes, the discipline of routine offers a clear path to getting back into the swing of things. And the most interesting thing is that, contrary to what many people think, a well-structured routine doesn't stifle life. It frees up mental energy for creativity and spontaneity, precisely because it eliminates chaos. It's at this point that the Stoic routine ceases to be just a method and becomes a lifestyle. Loneliness as a tool for growth. For many, solitude sounds negative, almost synonymous with emptiness. However, through the lens of Stoicism, it reveals itself to be a fertile space for transformation and self-discovery. Being alone, without distractions, allows you to observe thoughts, emotions, and patterns more clearly, without masks or filters. This strengthens virtue and weakens insecurity, because you begin to realize that you don't need constant validation to feel complete. A practical example: instead of filling every free moment with social media or superficial conversations, try setting aside 15 minutes of your day for silence. This simple habit can reveal a lot about you, your fears, your strengths, and your desires. Thus, solitude ceases to be a punishment and becomes a tool for growth, helping to reduce the emotional procrastination that hinders your personal evolution. It's in this intentional pause that solitude becomes an ally. Instead of rushing to external distractions, you learn to value time alone as a moment of mental and spiritual training. This practice, inspired by Stoicism, helps reinforce your sense of control over your own reactions. For example, when facing a stressful situation, such as a conflict at work or a difficult decision, the ability to be alone with your thoughts allows you to analyze it more calmly, without impulsiveness. This internal space is essential for cultivating more mindful habits, combating insecurity and anxiety. Gradually, solitude stops seeming scary and becomes a refuge of clarity and empowerment. And best of all, it prepares your mind to act with serenity in moments of pressure, reducing procrastination and increasing your confidence to make decisions aligned with virtue. Over time, the conscious use of solitude is reflected throughout your routine. You become more selective in your relationships, your activities, and even the words you speak, because you've learned to listen to yourself first. This level of self-awareness weakens insecurity and strengthens discipline. A simple example: taking part of the weekend to walk alone in a park, without music or cell phone. This seemingly trivial moment acts as a mental workout, reinforcing your emotional control and developing a kind of internal contentment. Solitude, understood this way, also reduces the need for external approval, freeing up energy for what truly matters. And when you realize that virtue flourishes in this silent space, even procrastination loses its appeal. What once seemed empty becomes fertile ground for growth, preparing you to face life with greater serenity and focus. Now that you've gone through the Stoic guide, you may have realized that each concept, from amor fati to the dichotomy of control, habits, routine, and solitude, is not just theory, but an invitation to transform your life. But true change doesn't happen by reading. It happens when you put it into practice. Ask yourself, what small actions can I implement today to reduce procrastination? How can I transform insecurity into strength and learning? What in my routine needs to be adjusted to align my habits with my values? Stoicism doesn't promise to eliminate problems, but it offers tools to help you respond to them with serenity and virtue. By cultivating these principles, you become less dependent on external factors and more confident in your own path. Imagine a year from now, looking back and realizing that you used even moments of solitude to grow, that you learned to differentiate what is within your control from what isn't, that you created a daily discipline capable of dissolving insecurity into clarity and purpose. This image can become reality if you start today, one step at a time. So I invite you to take the next step now. Take one of the exercises I've shared, be it morning reflection, evening analysis, or daily quiet time, and put it into practice today. And if this content resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to receive more reflections like this. After all, unshakable confidence isn't a destination. It's a continuous process. Are you ready to get started?